the monster that destroys this card by battle would practically get their attack and defense lowered. So that's essentially really useful. Next we have Rose, Warrior of Revenge. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you inflict 300 to your opponent. So essentially, you attack and inflict. Essentially, it has 300 attack. If essentially your opponent will lose 1900 from this card. 300 more from what this card inflicts for battle damage. Now, this card is also a tuner, which means I can synchro with it. Really useful. Next, we have 2 Solar Flare Dragons. These 2 can, if you put them out, they cannot be target or attacked if there's another Pyro monster. Well, guess what? They're Pyro monsters themselves, so essentially, you summon them both, neither can be attacked. Only way to destroy it is like with Dark Hole or Torrential Tribute or stuff like that that would destroy it by card effects. And every end phase, it inflicts 500. So, if you have both of these out, you would have 1000 right off the bat to your opponent during each end phase. So, that's why that's in there. And then we have 2 Ultimate Baseball Kids. This will gain 1000 attack for each fire monster on my field. You can essentially get in 400 for each money for your side alone, plus or 8,000 if your enemy plays a fire deck. Or excuse me, 9,000. But it's really rare with the fires. So next we have 2 volcanic slicers. Basically, I can once per turn, if I want, I could inflict my battle 500 to my opponent. There's a catch, though. If I activate it, this card would not be able to attack during the turn. I activated that effect. So that's, but the downside's not too bad. I mean, you're getting 500 right off the bat. So next, Blessings of the Nile. Each time a card is discarded from my hand to the graveyard by the effect controlled by my opponent, and I would increase my life points by 1,000. This could be useful when I have Fire Princess out on the field, because essentially I would be gaining a life points, and my opponent would lose 500. Blue Medicine, simple enough. You increase your life points by 400. Useful with Fire Princess. Book of Moon, I can target one monster on the field and change that to face down defense position. I could use this with Archer, essentially, to flip summon it again and inflict 500 to my opponent. And then I have Dark Hole. Really self-explanatory why that's in the deck. Then we have 2 Dion Ketos. I would gain 1000 useful with Fire Princess. Then we have 2 Flash of the Forbidden spell. Essentially, if my opponent's monster card zones are filled, I can destroy all monsters my opponent controls. Next, 2 Lightning Vortex. I can discard 1 card and destroy all monsters my opponent controls. Basically, could be, it's just cost of 1 discarded card, so, but it's basically essentially a dark hole without you losing your own monsters, so that's really useful. Then next we have Mirage Tube. This can be really useful if a face-up monster I control is selected as an attack target. I can inflict battle damage to my 1000 damage to my opponent. However, I cannot activate this from hand. I have to set it. So, and then we have 2 Mystical Space Typhoons. I can just self-explanatory, actually. Next, a Rekindling. I can basically bring back a ton of fire monsters for 1 turn. For example, I can bring back Laval Magma Cannoneer. I can bring back Rigorous Reaver. I can bring back Raging Flame Sprite. Here's the catch, though. I have to banish them during the end phase. And finally, we have Soul Absorption. Every time a card is removed from play, I can increase my life points by 500 for each card removed from play. Soul Absorption, with Soul Absorption, you basically would banish when you banish the 2 monsters from Fire Sorcerer and Flame Princesses on the field, you would gain life points and your opponent would lose life points. So, that's really useful. Next we have 2 Breakthrough Skills. Really useful again to negate the effects of face-up monsters until the end phase of the turn. This could be useful with Beals because you can negate his effect and he wouldn't gain the effects of the every time you burn past. And then we have 2 Dark Bribes. Simple enough. Negate a spell or trap when it's activated. Your opponent would draws 1 card. Win-win situation, though. So, then we have 2 Dimension Walls. Basically, when my opponent declares an attack, my opponent would take the battle damage instead of what I would have taken. And then we have 2 Gravity Binds. Basically, every level 4 or higher, with the exception of ranks, cannot attack. And then we have level limit area A. I can change all face-up level 3 or lower monsters to attack position. That's pretty useful. And then we have 2 Magic Cylinders. I can negate the attack and inflict the damage equal to a